Welcome to the Content Amplification Podcast, where you will gain insight into real-life tactical and strategic elements to help you scale and grow your business. Now, let's get started with today's episode.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of the Content Amplification Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Sean Wynot, and today we're going to be talking about addictions. And no, I don't mean your addiction to Netflix or binge watching or whatever it is that you're addicted to. I'm going to be talking about how and why we crave things and how we can leverage that in our marketing. Now, we all know that we are controlled by our brain, and there's a part of the brain called the hypothalamus. And I'm not going to get all into biology in this episode, but really, there's a section in there that controls motivations and what we desire. And it's the central link of our brain. We technically, the not scientific word for that is the reward circuit. And this circuit is all about desire and satisfaction. It's also known as the craving spot. It's become active when we encounter those tasty samples at our favorite food or local supermarket, or if we see an attractive person walking down the street that we desire. That's when that craving spot really gets activated. And when the neurotransmitters, release dopamine, it's produced in that area. And when it's released, we experience pleasure, desire, and in some cases, arousal. This is known as incentive salience. Okay, incentive salience. Stick with me here. The good news is that salience is triggered by erogenous cues. And these are agents on the outside of our body. Not internal, but outside. Outternal. That's not a word, but on the outside. So if we can, as marketers, deliver these cues, we can ultimately stimulate that dopamine and create craving within any person's brain. A craving which, you'll see in a moment, can be very hard to resist. Now, salience, when we experience it, flips a switch whenever we encounter something that makes us think, here's something that's emotionally relevant and likely important for my continued survival, right? So we see something, and that's what our brain is programmed to do, is make us survive. So those two core instincts of survival and or reproduction, we ultimately will pay attention. So to make products that are addictive, and when I say products, it could be a physical product, an online product, it could be a service that you offer, we need to be able to trigger that feel-good neurotransmitter of dopamine and fire up that part of the brain. So when our products or offers stimulate this frenzy of activity in that area of our prospect's brain, we ultimately will see you will see a frenzy of sales. Now, the reasoning of the rational brain becomes drowned out by this insatiable craving and desire, because there's that rational side where it's like, maybe I don't need that, right? But if that desire overcomes that rational side, there's really no stopping it. And much of what we explore, in our lives and things that we see, and you look back to different purchases that you've made, where after the fact, you're like, well, I didn't probably really need that, but it was that craving at the time, that sense of need and want is because of that dopamine that happened. Now, if you've ever read the book Biology, there's a chapter in there, and bi as in B-U-Y, there's a chapter in there where the author describes a study that proves that disgusting photographs of a decaying body parts on cigarette packs caused by smoking do absolutely nothing to eliminate cravings of people wanting to smoke. Now, similarly, if we were to tell an alcoholic to stop drinking, and put it in quote, stop drinking, all they would hear is drinking. Now, your message, or the message there to abstain, would just fall flat, because that mere thought of drink triggers their sense of craving within their brain. And when the craving is strong enough, people act against their own instincts in spite of other objections. We see this example every day. Now, analysts who value logic can fail to understand this because it's purely a primal phenomenon. And it's beyond the scope of reason of rational conclusion. Humans do things when they're hungry, obsessed. They're craving something. They have that constant craving. It's the same reason you should never go grocery shopping when you're hungry, because you're going to make those irrational purchases. So really what I'm talking about here is you need to look at your product, your service, your offer, and you need to think about what is that central need that somebody's trying to overcome. So if you're a consultant and you help somebody with, marketing consulting, we'll use that example because that's the field I'm in. Nobody wants to buy marketing consulting, right? They want to buy the inner core need that they have. So if, for example, they're part of their business and they can't get new leads, or it's costing them a lot, and they keep saying, I've got this database of people that I've met over the last 10 years, and I really don't know how to leverage that, they would need to ultimately talk to somebody about how to market to them more effectively. But they're not buying the marketing consulting for that reason, right? They're buying the ability to have a better life, right? Get more income, grow their business through reactivating that list of contacts, which ultimately is a service of marketing, and a marketing consultant that has a solution for that would help them to do that, right? So being able to tap into that, that fear that they have, that drive, that natural instinct to want to thrive in their life, and eliminate that fear of having to constantly chase leads into their retirement just to survive, and having a system in place would speak exactly to what it is that they want. So I urge you to think about your clients. Think about what it is that you do. Think about the products and services that you sell, and how can you start to write content, create videos that talk to that insatiable desire of survival that they have. So that's what I want you to do coming out of this episode, is to think about that. How can you connect what you do, what you sell, to a desire of survival in the human brain? Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Content Amplification Podcast. If you have questions about how you can amplify your content strategy, go to amplifymycontent.com.